Hello, my name is Rob Edwards. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are talking Doctor Who Season 12, Episode 5, The Fugitive of the Judoon. And that, my friends, was a whole lot of episode. I'm going to have to talk spoilers pretty much immediately, but in general, I'm going to give you my overall impression of it, the things which really worked for me, and the things which didn't quite land. But I'm going to have to talk spoilers pretty much immediately. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, go watch it. Because so much happens in it, and arguably too much happens in it. I was spoiled almost immediately by my YouTube timeline. Some channels that I don't even subscribe to, but I've watched enough that the algorithm puts them in front of me when I go to YouTube. There were spoilers in thumbnails and there were spoilers in titles, and there was no way that I could get to this episode without being spoiled, sadly. But what we got was a really interesting episode of Doctor Who. So my general impression was, I don't know, there has been a history throughout New Who of a certain percentage of the fan base always being upset with the current showrunner. It was true for Davies, it was true for Moffat, it's certainly true for Chibnall. And I've never really been in that camp ever. Even with last season, which, you know, if you go back and look at my reviews, I was not a huge fan of Chibnall's writing. I'm not, you know, through season 11 anyway, super excited by any of the episodes that we got. But even then, I wasn't in a kind of, oh, Chibnall must go kind of thing. I wanted to see what he could bring. And this season, I have to say, he's brought a lot, and it's been significantly better. With the exception of Orphan 55, of course. And it's been, you know, quite a turnaround from last season. But I still find myself thinking, if this was a Davis episode, or if this was a Moffat episode, I would be more excited about how this is all going to pan out. Particularly for Moffat, if he'd set up this whole alternate Doctor, Gallifrey is destroyed and yet not destroyed, is Ruth from the past or from the future. If this was Moffat and his skill at intricate puzzle boxes and connecting them together and making a reveal which is clever, if not necessarily always satisfying, then I would be all in. But the Chris Chibnall I have seen write for Doctor Who has yet to convince me that he can pull this off. This was a fascinating start to a puzzle. Make no bones about it, I am all in. I'm loving this idea of there being this alternate Doctor. I'm loving the appearance of Jack. Jack was brilliant. He was everything that I've missed about him. He was amazing in this episode, in the brief flash that we got of him. But I don't know that Chibnall has what it takes to pull this off in a satisfying way. I've seen all sorts of rumours on the web. I'm not going to kind of go into them really about what the answer to this puzzle might be. And some of the rumours, if true, are really, really unsatisfying and break law significantly. For my money, since I can't talk about this episode without at least speculating a little bit about where the Ruth Doctor fits in to all this. We see, okay, this isn't new. If you've watched any other reviews and stuff about Doctor Who this episode, I've seen several on YouTube already, but there are certain clues which point to where this Doctor is in the timeline of the Doctor, and they're all fairly contradictory. The fact that she has a TARDIS in the shape of a police box means that she has to be after Hartnell, because that is when the police box thing first happened. We've seen Hartnell escaped from Gallifrey in his Type 40 TARDIS, which was in its sort of cylinder blank format, and we've seen it be in the police box as long as he has travelled on the show. So we know that the police box didn't happen until the Doctor left Gallifrey. So Ruth has to be after that. She didn't recognise the sonic screwdriver, so arguably, I mean, the second Doctor uses it in the War Games, but it wasn't the thing. I mean, when the Doctor uses it in the War Games, it's as a screwdriver of all things, so probably not recognising it as a scientific instrument the way that 13 uses it. So, but by the time we get to Pertwee, by the time we get to Doctor 3, the screwdriver is all over the show. So anything after Pertwee, you'd think she would recognise at least the idea of what the sonic screwdriver is. I mean, the War Doctor certainly recognised it. The 8th Doctor used one. The 5th Doctor used one until it was blown up. The 4th Doctor used one all the time. 3rd Doctor used one all the time. So, that has to be after that. Has to be after Hartnell and before Pertwee. So one theory is the idea that it's all part of Season 6B. Don't worry about that. If you don't know what Season 6B is, it is a weird fan corner about Patrick Troughton's Doctor. And it's quite fun. I quite like it. But there is no way that Chibnall is going to base his Doctor on a deep cut like that. So as far as I'm concerned, the only way that the Ruth Doctor works is that it's got to be an alternate Gallifrey from an alternate dimension. We've established in Who that these things exist. Rose is one. Rose is one. Rose is in one. Wow. Rose is in one. We know they exist. And it is entirely possible that somehow the Doctor from another universe has gotten here and blended through. I think that the creatures, the Kasavin from episode 1 from Spyfall, may well be a connector for that. And it makes me wonder, again, whether I was wrong about where the Master fits in the timeline. I said that Master that we saw in Spyfall fits comfortably after Missy, because I quite like the idea of going back to Gallifrey, finding out something terrible and falling back to his old ways. But if this is a Gallifrey from an alternate universe, then that could quite possibly be a Master from an alternate universe, and that is quite nice in that it would let Missy maintain her ending, maintain the fact that she had a redemptive arc, that she turned good. That was my attempt at the weird Scottish accent. By the end of the episode, and maybe this is a Master from a different universe and he doesn't realise that he's talking to a different Doctor than the one he was expecting. That's quite fun, quite interesting, quite like that. But if Chibnall goes with any other solution to that, if tries to fit it in elsewhere in the timeline, certainly before Hartnell, is a no-go for me. Where else does it fit? It doesn't. So any other solution is just going to be really unsatisfying. What about the Jack thing? What about the Jack thing? As I say, love to see Jack back. He was exactly the character I remembered. Barrowman looking great, considering he's not been in the show for 10 years. Dropping some cryptic hints about the future. Okay, I'll give him a pass. Time travel's funny like that. I've never really liked the foretold destiny, the paradox of the future prediction and the self-fulfilling prophecy and all this kind of stuff. It's all a bit cheap, but it is a show about time travel. It is something which can happen. So, okay, maybe I will give that to him. What else? The Judoon, we should talk about those. Great to see them back. The Judoon are an interesting race in Doctor Who and New Who because they've never really been the villain of an episode of Doctor Who. They've been an obstacle and they've been a threat, but we've never seen them as the villain of the piece. And that didn't change here either, really. It makes them quite an interesting kind of support species, if you like. They're not like Daleks and Cybermen. They go, oh my god, it's the Judoon, everyone panics. Not some Tyrants either. They are a species that kind of support the action. And they fill that role nicely here. And I quite like the idea that we had a Judoon with some more personality, a different personality than the Judoon we'd seen before. I love them. It made me laugh a lot, actually, when the Doctor is berating the Judoon patrol leader. And she possibly, since one line was about woman to woman, so when she kind of went, when the Doctor was telling her off, I thought it was really quite funny. I enjoyed that. The companions. What can I say about the companions this episode? Again, not an episode which is strong in the companions, and I worry slightly that continues to be the theme of this season. It's been very little about the companions this season, apart from a few bits here or there. In this episode, I mean, the one thing is we did get at least one good moment for all three of them, which was quite gratifying. The interactions between Jack and Graham were great. The interactions between Jack and Ryan were great. Both of them were a lot of fun. Yaz's moment came with her standing up to the Judoon, and I liked that. It gave us another insight into Yaz as a police officer, as a crisis manager. Because when we saw that right in the very first episode, when we first introduced Yaz, we saw her mediating an argument. And that seems to be the core of how she approaches policing. So it was nice that we got a callback to that in this episode. So I like that. But we really didn't get more than that single flash there, that single flash there, and that single flash there for those three companions. And, you know, I don't mind that there's an episode like that, but I want an episode soon which focuses on at least one of the three companions in a bit more detail. As for Jodie, I think she has never been more the 13th Doctor than she was in this episode. I really felt it. I've been kind of slowly building to this for some time now, throughout this season and towards the end of last season as well a bit. I still don't know that I'm 100% sold on her performance. The big arm with the sonic script still bugs me, and it was on show repeatedly in this episode. But I really liked her as the Doctor this time. Yeah, I really rated the performance. And I think the performance, particularly as the Doctor and Ruth are travelling out to the lighthouse, and the Doctor is kind of testing the water, trying to find out what's going on. Very good, very well played. I really enjoyed it. And the confusion of the Doctor when Ruth is revealed, again, Jodie Whittaker doing what Jodie Whittaker can do, and doesn't do enough for me, which is to really embody that role, to stop being kind of playing silly and being the Doctor. And I think she was this episode. Ironic that it takes the arrival of someone else claiming to be the Doctor to really underscore that for me. So there we go. That is my opinion of this episode. I really enjoyed it, but I'm worried about what it means for the future. Can Chris Chibnall pull it off? I am not saying he can't. I'm just saying that from what I've seen of his writing so far, he is yet to convince me. But maybe he will. And if he does, this is going to be a spectacular season finale. Yeah. Oh, that'd be a bit good. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more about me and Doctor Who, check the box over there. If you want to see more of my writing, check the box over there. And there's a subscribe button somewhere on the screen as well. Join me next time, and we will be talking about another episode of Doctor Who. Cheers.